A long time ago, in a small village somewhere in Ekiadolo, lived a 15 years old girl called Iier. She was the eldest of three children. Her parents, Oge and Eki, were poor farmers who didn't have enough money to send them to school. Iier and her two brothers, Osage and Nusa, were only opportuned to finish their primary education, which at the time was free education. Even at that, Oge and Eki still struggled to send their children to school. Iier was a very intelligent girl who loved to read. She would go to her friend's house to borrow books. Iier had four friends whose parents were well-to-do, enough to send them to secondary schools and even university. Her friends, Esosa, Otiti, Esoe, and Itoan, had all graduated from secondary school and were waiting for their JAMB results to get into the university. Iier would often wonder how different her life would be if only her parents had money. Her parents cultivated vegetables on a small piece of land which they had gotten on lease from Chief Odion. Chief Odion was a man in his early 60s. He had three wives and 11 children. One day, Oge and Eki called their daughter and told her that Chief Odion had asked for her hand in marriage. "What? Papa, what are you talking about?" asked Iier. "You know that land we farm on is on lease from Chief Odion," said her father. 60% of the money we get from the sale of our farm produce goes to him. But we have not been able to do that for the past 1 year, Iier. Your mother was seriously sick last year, and we had to borrow money from Chief Edopolo to pay for her treatment at the clinic. Now we're still paying Chief Edopolo. We have begged Chief Odion, asking him for a little more patience, but he said he's tired of waiting. He said if you become his wife, he will forgo the debt, and he will even allow us to farm on the land for as long as we want. "Are you serious, Papa?" asked Iier. "Did you agree with this?" "Yeah." "Meme, marry a man older than my father?" "Papa, Chief Odion already has three wives and 11 children. How am I supposed to fit into that picture?" "I can't believe you're even considering this, Papa." "Iier," said her father, "what do you want me to do? Eh? How do I pay back my debt? If Chief Odion takes that land, what do we do? How do we feed Iier? I'm not happy about this, but my hands are tied." Iier stood up. "I'm not going to marry Chief Odion, Papa. Iier, I won't. She left her parents in tears. Iier tried all she could to persuade her parents to change their mind, but her father said his hands were tied. Eki tried to make her husband see reasons, but Oge said there was nothing more he could do. The following week, Ivier's traditional marriage took place. Chief Odion organized everything so fast because he did not want to give Oge any opportunity to change his mind. Iier cried and held on to her mother. She did not want to marry Chief Odion, but she had no choice. The deed was already done. When Iier arrived at her new home, she was not well received. The other wives made unfriendly faces and nasty remarks. Some of Chief Odion's children made jest of her and how she accepted to marry a man older than her father. Chief Odion ordered his wives not to disturb Iier for the next 1 month. She was not allowed to cook or clean. His other children would take turns in cleaning her room whenever it was dirty. And this made his wives and children very angry and unfriendly towards her. Everyone was unkind to Iier except Osas, who was Chief Odion's 8th child, and he was older than her by 5 years. The night Iier got to her new home, Chief Odion came into her room. Iier pretended to be sick. She said she had runny stomach, that it was probably something she ate. Chief Odion was nice to her and told her to sleep, that she would feel better the next day. The next day came, and Ivier pretended to be sick again. Every night, she would find an excuse to keep Chief Odion from touching her. Marrying Ivier made Chief Odion very happy and proud. He took her wherever he went and proudly showed her off to his friends and age mates. One day, Ivier sat under a tree in the compound crying. Osas found her and tried to comfort her. If this marriage makes you unhappy, why then did you marry my father? I did not have a choice, replied Ivier. I was forced to marry him. My father owes your father a large sum of money and has not been able to pay back. Your father insisted that if he marries me, my parents wouldn't have to pay the debt anymore. He also promised to let my parents farm on the land for as long as they wanted. You know that land is the only means of income we have. Said Osas. That is very typical of my father, to take advantage of any opportunity to satisfy his selfish gain. So what do you intend to do? You are too young to be his wife. I don't know, said Ivier, as she cried. Do you want to remain his wife? No, I don't want to be here. I want to go to school. I want to leave this place, but I don't know how. Osas thought for a while and said, I will help you. Really? Asked Ivier. Yes, I will. I will think of something and then I'll let you know. Osas wanted to help Ivier run away because he felt she was so beautiful and still very young to be married to a man like his father. Apart from that, he liked Ivier very much and wanted her for himself. 2 days later, Osas called Ivier aside and said, I have a friend who lives in the city. I will give you his address. Papa will be going for a meeting at 12 p.m. tomorrow. You can sneak out then. Well, how do I get to the city? Asked Ivier. I will get you some money for transportation. Why are you doing this for me, Osas? Why do you want to help your father's wife run away? Besides, won't you get into trouble with your father? I like you, Ivier. I like you a lot. And besides, I can take care of myself. Ivier smiled and thanked him. The next day, Chief Odion left for his meeting, but before he left, he warned Ivier that he will not be entertaining any more excuse that night. Thankfully, Osas was able to provide the address and some money, and Ivier was able to escape to the city that day. She was very grateful to Osas for coming to her rescue. She had no idea what Chief Odion would do to her parents, but she was willing to take a chance. She promised herself that she was going to find a job and put herself through school. The bus came to a stop. Some of the passengers were requesting to buy snacks from the hawkers on the road. Ivier managed to buy a packet of plantain chips from the little money she had left. When the bus entered the city, Ivier was able to locate her bus stop and she got off the vehicle. She reached into her bag to get the address Osas had given to her, but she couldn't find it. She tried asking for help from people, but she had no idea what the address said. She hadn't bothered to look at it. She was too excited for the opportunity to give herself a chance at life. She had no idea where she was going. She sat down by the roadside and started to cry. A middle-aged woman walked up to her and asked why she was crying. After she heard Ivier's story, she asked her to come stay with her. Her name was Mrs. Igbinosa. She was a rich widow and she had a daughter who was 2 years Ivier's senior. Her name was Omoye. Mrs. Igbinosa and Omoye were happy to have Ivier living with them. She enrolled Ivier back into secondary school to finish her secondary education, and then after that, Ivier passed her exams and her JAMB exam especially. She got accepted into the University of Benin to study pharmacy. Occasionally, Ivier would wonder about her family and what Chief Odion might have done to them. It bothered her a lot, but she tried not to let it distract her. On 3 occasions, Mrs. Igbinosa had suggested to take Iier to visit her family to let them know she was well, but Iier had refused and said she would only visit her parents after she had graduated from the university. Years later, Iier graduated from the university and got a good paying job. She asked her godmother, Mrs. Igbinosa, to accompany her to see her family. It had been so many years since she ran away from home. Her mother and siblings were so happy to see her. Her mother said they were worried. They thought Chief Odion had done something with her. Her mother looked very frail, and her brothers were doing menial jobs to make ends meet. When Iier asked for her father, she was told her father had passed away from a heart attack. After Iier ran away, Chief Odion had arrested and asked the police to detain Ogie until he provided all the money he owed. He had also chased them away from the house he had rented for them and also took back his piece of land. Ogie could not handle any of it. He died a few minutes after he was rushed to the hospital. Chief Odion had also disowned Osas when he found out he was the one that aided Iier to run away. Osas had left for the city and hadn't returned since then. Eki thanked Mrs. Igbinosa for being a godsend and for taking care of her daughter Iier for all those years. Iier took her mother and brothers back to the city and had her brothers enrolled back in school to finish their education. Lessons to be learned from this story. Do not give up on your dreams, no matter what. You can achieve anything you set your mind to. When we go through difficulties, remember, God is by our side. There is always light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you so much for listening to my story today. If you enjoyed it, then please give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and also leave your comments down below. I love to interact with you. Also share this video with your family or friends who you think will enjoy this as well. I'll see you in my next story. Until then, bye.